Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborne. We're so grateful that you are here joining us today, especially since we did have to reschedule from last week. So we appreciate your understanding and your patience on that during this tumultuous time we are in right now. So thank you for joining us for 30 to 40 minutes to drink some wine, learn about wine, and taste wine with the one and only Mark Oldman. For those of you who purchased the wines ahead of time, we will be drinking all four or tasting all four wines today. I know that four can be a lot if there's only one or two of you at home. So remember that this video will live on the Wine.com YouTube channel after today. So if you just want to open a couple today, you can always come back to visit later on when you have opened the other two, just whatever works for you. But yes, we're going through all four of these delicious wines today. So for now, I would like to introduce our guest, speaker, educator, entertainer, author, Mark Oldman. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Gwendolyn, great to be here.
Yes, so good to see you. We're glad you're here. For those of you who don't know Mark, not only is he an author, but he's like the ultimate in wine edutainment and is highly sought after as a speaker and presenter. And Mark, I know like right around this time, you would normally be in Aspen, maybe next week doing one of your sold out seminars, kind of the most popular where you drink like a billionaire or some of your other amazing topics, and you're, savoring champagne and running around the audience. So, but you're here with us and we are very grateful that you are, because these don't sell out, which is great.
I love that.
Thank
you.
Exactly. So also want to kind of let everybody else know, I've known Mark for 15 years now, back when he looked like this.
I had that embalmed look then.
Right. Yeah. But no, it was good. We were both kind of youngins back then. Right. So this was your first book, which was great. And I remember going to a seminar.
I just interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
The original drawing, the artist hadn't met me for my first book, which was by Penguin. And they made me look exactly like Bob Hope.
Oh.
And you have to be very deferential to your publisher. So I was just like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't really look like that. And he does
have a fan base. I mean, it could have
true.
Worked,
So I went from Bob Hope to I guess that was kind of a Von Trappian.
That's I like that. Yeah. I wouldn't complain about that. Anyway, but it was a great book. I remember reading it and loving it. I mean, you're just so adept at breaking down the wine world for kind of every consumer level, making it enjoyable and entertaining, which is what everybody wants. So this that we're talking about now is your third book. I have it behind me here, How to Drink Like a Billionaire. So what was your impetus for writing this one?
Well, first of all, if it could fit on the cover, it would say how to drink like a billionaire without spending like a billionaire, because a lot of people, billionaires don't have the best rap these days. So I either say it's drinking like a good, restrained, thoughtful billionaire, but also it's about getting good values. The really, really, really rich people, the few that I know, care more about money than most people. I guess that's how they got rich and how they're staying rich. And they don't get fleeced by restaurants or wine stores. They know how to maneuver, and they also know how to break rules and when to break the rules. And ultimately, and I know you agree with me on this, Gwendolyn, they don't care what others think. Generally, they want to increase their own pleasure, and they're not too worried about dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. It's about having delicious wine and sharing it with people you love.
Yeah. So you're saying they're not afraid to throw an ice cube in a glass of white wine.
Please, let's do it. Go ahead and add ice. Now, if it is the most delicate, pristine, red Burgundy, expensive, maybe you wouldn't want to do it because of dilution anxiety. But summer season, it's hot out, and you feel like it. Robert Mondavi, I'll tell you, when he was still around, he told me that he used to drink his expensive reserve Cabernet Sauvignon in the summer, there in your beautiful Bay
Wow.
Area, he would drop a big ice cube in
Okay.
there. And I'd say, well, Mr. Mondavi, weren't you afraid about dilution? He's like,
Made of water
I'm Robert
anyway.
Mondavi. I can do
Like,
whatever I
it's
want.
75% water anyway. Come on. Well, I
Exactly.
also always tell people, if you didn't have the forethought to put it in the fridge enough time, is it really good enough for you to avoid throwing an ice cube in? Like, the ones that you are really the ones that you need to focus on, and that pristine, that kind of delicateness and whatever you're going to think about before you put it in the fridge.
Brilliant.
So if you've
Yes.
forgotten, then a nice cube is fine. Anyway, I'm just saying that because it's like
Very good point, though. No, very good
champagne.
point. If the wine is so important, chances are you've fantasized about
It is at
drinking
the
it
right
for weeks.
temperature to drink right when you're ready.
Yes,
Yes,
you've
yes.
got it all covered.
Yeah, cool. Okay, speaking of drinking wines, let's get in so we can kind of get your best tips on how to drink like very thoughtful, educated, humane billionaires, right?
Yeah, not the bad billionaires, the good billionaires.
But yes, but this is about, it's a clever title for learning to kind of appreciate value. So we're starting with the Bollinger Champagne. I love champagne. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
not many people don't, but this is Champagne Bollinger, to be precise. It's one of my favorite producers. Don't you love that we put this in a little half bottle, y'all? it's so exciting because that's another, and I'll let you talk to Mark about enjoying luxury in small sizes. Historical property here, but for those of you who don't know, when we say champagne, it has to come from Champagne. See where this is? This is this little spot up in northeast France. It has got very densely planted. It's just a little piece of magic with these super, super chalky soils. And it produces this magnificent product that's like no other. So why did you choose this, Mark, for our
so transporting those photos? And by the way, you mentioned the phrase luxury in small sizes. I'm not that tall, so I thought you might be talking about me there. But
of course I am.
That could be a good motto. Mark Oldman,
maybe you should mark
luxury in small sizes. Shop in the children's department, Oldman. But anyway, I love great champagne. Nothing kind of matches the grandeur and the aspects, the kind of nuances of it. So the Bollinger, or if you want to sound like a bad billionaire from America, you say Bollinger. If you want to sound a little effete, but no, Bollinger is wonderful. I call it one of the great classics, and this is I think it's the special cuvee, which means this is their non-vintage, which means this is their entry level. But entry level champagne can be somewhat expensive, but you're going to get so much bang for your buck on this. And when you, first of all, you see
it's so pretty,
tiny little bubbles. That's one of the things that separates a great champagne like the Bollinger from, let's say, a Prosecco. And I love Prosecco, but those bubbles tend to be a little bigger, a little more ungainly. These are small pinpoint bubbles that coat your throat like a cashmere caress. I mean, this is just, it's not only that beautiful brioche smell, like it's a Petrich Farm factory smell, which you only get with champagne. You don't get that with American sparkling wine. I love American sparkling wine. And then you get that texture, that creamy texture, and the combination is unique. So for an entry level champagne, this is kind of, it's kind of like James Bond's tuxedo. It's elegant.
It is the James Bond champagne.
That is. So there's been an association with Bond and Bollinger forever. That's the champagne, that's the bubbly he drinks. But it is, I don't know if it didn't used to be James Bond like, and then they're like, since we're associated with it, we better
make it like James Bond. Let's do this.
Yeah, more elegant and more kind of toasty. You don't get that from other regions.
You don't get that from every champagne either. Exactly. I was going to mention that there are kind of different styles of non-vintage champagne, which I also sometimes use multi-vintage champagne, meaning that there can't be a label, but that's because they blend some vintages. But this is more of the rich, and this is my style. This is my jam. So it is that richer, that brioche. Oh God, I just love that, and it is a good bang for the buck. So
brioche, creme brulee, toast. almonds, throw all that in the mix. And then, but it's not like,
yeah, it's the
it's
brightness.
got a lift to it too. And that's the hat trick, right? It's like the ability to be toasty, but then also refreshing. You know, it kills me.
Toasty, creamy, refreshing. Like, yeah, that's the trio. So I love it. So what glass are you drinking in? Because I have, this is I'm a big fan. Someone should talk about drinking champagne in a regular glass. This actually is my Bollinger glass. Like, it actually says Champagne Bollinger. So I felt required to have my Bollinger in this glass. But there's been a push to kind of drink champagne out of what more white wine glasses, as you have here. And what do you find to be what helps bring out the enjoyment in that?
Well, so one of my drink like a billionaire tips is not to worry too much about glassware where you have like a different shape for every type of wine, so glassware and wine can get a little absurd. I actually, for almost all wine, I use a very simple glass. I think this is like 20 ounce, 22 ounce crate and barrel glass for about $4 a stem when it's on sale. And part of the reason why I go very simple is because I break glass, as you probably do too.
I did last night, actually. Yeah. Actually, my daughter did, but still, I had it wrong.
She's learning, you know, the apple doesn't fall apart. But yeah, with not a traditional champagne flute, but more of a big bowl, you get a greater aroma from it. And I asked a famous chef de cave, a famous champagne winemaker, do they use flutes or do they use regular wine glasses? And he said with great determination, regular wine glasses, because what they want to do is evaluate the wine. Now, the flute lets you see that chimney of bubbles.
And this is kind of a bigger one. I think some of them are putting something out for the consumer or the customers to say kind of like, you can keep your flute, but we're just going to make it a little bit bigger for you to help you kind of focus on that. So I've seen that from Bollinger. I've seen that from Dom. I think they're kind of trying to encourage that, but let people keep their flute shape.
A nice middle ground, retain your bubbles a little bit more with a more narrow shape. Now, I break the rules like a would-be billionaire would. And so I've got my everyday glasses, and then I've got my special glasses when someone comes over and I just want to put on the Ritz. I've got champagne coupes.
Oh,
those are terrible for keeping.
Terrible for bubbles.
Right. But if you
aromas, but they're pretty.
Yeah, they're pretty. They evoke the stork club of, generations ago. They're glamorous. And if you drink fast enough, you don't have to worry about losing the bubble.
Scroll through it. Yeah. Perfect. So this is great, but also, I mean, if you recommend any other, like, do you have any other favorite go-to bubbles that are, let's say, like under $20?
Oh my God, yes. So American sparkling wine, I am a huge...
You're a Gruet fan like me.
Oh my God, Gruet. If I have to pick top 5 piece of advice I've given to friends who like come back to me 5 years later and say, that was the best advice ever, it was to drink Gruet, which you mentioned. Sparkling wine from New Mexico. It sounds crazy, but it's a French family. That's why you say A and not et. And they just make this beautiful champagne, and no one wake them up.
Sparkling wine.
What's that?
Sparkling wine.
Yeah, sparkling wine. Sorry. Any French people out there? I'm sorry. But
mon Dieu. Okay.
But no. So I love Gruet. Now, if you want to stay in the Napa Sonoma area, and pay a little bit more than the Gruet, but like it's a darn good stunt double for top champagne, Roederer State.
Yeah.
I think it's from the Anderson Valley. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And our cellar must be very similar.
You know what you taught me about once in terms of champagne, which I wowed people. Oh, wait. What is that champagne house? It's a little less known. You might have served it in your wedding.
We served a lot of them at our wedding. But what was it? Right. Was it Igli Aurier, or it was with Roederer Champagne? No, but I love that. But it was that we did Piper, we did Krug, we did Flan, we did.
There's a house that I've turned.
Is it Gosset?
Gosset.
I love Gosset. Yes.
Turn me
on.
I
taught you something.
And I have now turned other people on it. So that is the great in-person viral effect
Right.
of wine
Perfect. And I loved when you mentioned it, that people call it Prosecco, and you should always keep Prosecco in your fridge, and just call it Prosecco. See, we all are a little educators. We're just trying to get people excited about wine.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, let's move to Chardonnay, because that is like my favorite, desert island, because Chardonnay is just so dang good. Okay, so we're tasting the Chateau Montelena, which kind of has a cool history to it. And like I said, I'm just kind of a big Chardonnay fan. I'm a huge white Burgundy fan, but obviously that is not in my everyday budget. Here's the Chateau here. It's been around for a few, maybe several decades. Yeah, there's their estate property. Why did you choose this Chardonnay?
It has, not only is it a great value.
Look at their types.
Price.
Yeah.
But it is incredibly wonderful to visit. When I was in college, first learning about wine, I started a wine club in college. Sure, we were all of age, but we took a class trip basically up to Chateau Montelena. And have you been to the properry, Gwendolyn?
I'm like going to start this thing down. I don't think I have. I mean, I've driven by it, but I've never done a tour. Wait, maybe I did. No, I tasted with the winemaker once.
Yeah.
At Chateau Montelena.
Well, it's the grounds and the castle-like structure, and there's this lake called Jade Lake, and there are pagodas, two beautiful pagodas on this lake. So you get a little exhilarated in the tasting room with really high quality Chardonnay and Cabernet. And then you go out and see the lake and you're like, do people really live like this? Like, I need to step it up in terms of quality of life.
Where's my castle?
Yeah. Where's my castle? Where's my castle?
Where's my castle? But it's so Burgundian. Like, I feel like this is so Burgundian-like. I mean, with its own California sense. And that's what, I mean, Montelena has a history for this, right? In 76?
Paris tasting, 1976. They went up against, they were in the white wine category. They went up against all these white Burgundies. And as you know, white Burgundy is the world template for Chardonnay. And Montelena won. They beat it. And I remember the French were like, they were smelling the Montelena. I read about this. And they were like, oh, well, it's got this beautiful nose and some minerality. This has to be a French wine. And that's what the French people said. Boy, were they wrong.
Yeah, no, it's funny. And I've even been in a blind tasting with some French friends and everything. And everybody thought a Kistler once, an old Kistler was a Burgundy. So, I mean, I think when we see it and we taste it, we know it's California Chardonnay, we think one thing, but just kind of, put a paper bag over it. And, I mean, in a nice setting, I don't know, that probably sounds bad, but you can learn a lot, right?
Hey, if you're drinking like a billionaire, you can put a sock over it.
A sock monkey, maybe. Yeah, even that. No, but I love this because it has that greenish tint too, which kind of reminds me of Burgundy and Chablis coming through, but it's so perfectly balanced where there's nothing kind of taking over anything else. It's integrated. You have that rich, creamy texture, but the citrus and I love this wine. So
once again, it's some Burgundies for people. I have like a little tasting group on Zoom, and on Sunday we did white Burgundy. And for those who aren't used to like the more austere white Burgundies, like let's say certain Chablis, or even like some certain Pouligny-Montrachets or whatever, it can be, for those of us who are Americans and grew up with, intravenous strips to high C and Coca-Cola, that sort of white Burgundy can feel a little austere. Yeah. But I think Montelena hits it out of the park because it's got the refreshment of a white Burgundy and the minerality, but then it's got that seductive, like sweet, I get like summer peaches.
It was ripe, but like the way where you eat it, it's like dripping, like it's just so ripe, it's just, or like a peach cobbler maybe is a better way to say it, less messy. A peach cobbler or something. But yeah, I mean, it's just, this is this is also a wine that I would give to people who said they don't really like Chardonnay because it's too oaky or whatever. And I'm like, no, there is balance to be had in a good Chardonnay. And
my sister said that, and I live to
change her mind.
White wines that she go, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
By the way, this one's a Chardonnay too.
Yeah.
People don't understand. the world's most prestigious white wine is Chardonnay. You just have to be with a winery that does it right.
Yeah, and you can mess it up, but you can also, bring it up. So
Elevate it. Absolutely.
yeah, elevate it up. Yeah, yeah. So so let's move on to the reds that we have. Excited about those. Actually, yeah. So the one we're tasting, La Volte del Ornellaia. So this is from Ornellaia, which was one of the. It's like what you'd call. It was one of the first super Tuscans. It's kind of what you would call one of the first growths of Tuscany, if you will. It's considered just one of the top, the best of the best. It's hard to find. But what we're tasting is the La Volte. Here they are in the beautiful vineyards of Italy. So La Volte is, I guess, a second label or a second wine, depending on how you want to call it. So talk to us about that and how that's so important in looking for values and getting the best for your money.
Absolutely. Well, the kind wineries out there are the ones that not only make their billionaire wines where you need a billionaire budget, but they make wines of similar quality, usually with either leftover grapes or because they have such market power, they're able to get really high quality grapes at not a terrible price. So yes, Ornellaia makes this, it's actually their like entry level. It's their,
okay.
Technically,
yeah, I actually wasn't even sure where it was on the of their labels. All I know is they put Ornellaia on it, which is awesome.
This is the entry level, and I'll tell you, I was in Tuscany with my now wife and Florence, and I did not want to spend like a lot on a wine, and we were having that lovely Tuscan steak with rosemary.
Yes, the really thin one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's sizzling. But I was afraid of this wine list. It was kind of an old, traditional, beautiful Tuscan steakhouse. And I saw La Volte on the wine list. And I'm like, this is how I analogize it. It's like, and if any Ornellaia people are listening, I mean this in the best way. It's like a hamburger from Danny Meyer, for example. Like, if you don't want to pay,
that is the best way. It's like going to Shake Shack. It's like, it's going to be the bomb.
High quality. It's the casual version, but it's from a really high quality place. If I can't afford Danny Meyer's Gramercy Tavern, I'm going to eat one of his burgers, and I know it's made with the same love, but it's more casual, and I'm going to pay a lot less. And the La Volte, my wife didn't care that much about.
I was gonna say, does your wife like the story? Being like, well, I just didn't really want to spend a lot. We're already married. Like when
Exactly, right. Once that happens, Mark, order the Billionaire wine that costs.
That's during the wooing stages, right?
Yeah, right.
I can attest to this. I have the story too.
But I felt triumphant because I felt like I outsmarted the system, and that goes to another drink like a Billionaire concept. Price is not proportionate to deliciousness. It can be relational, but there are a million examples where for $30 or $20 or $40, you could drink a wine that tastes like $120.
Yeah. So I guess this lesson, before we kind of go into what this wine is, your kind of, I guess the lesson is find a great producer who does, the top of the top that you're not going to go out and spend $600 on a bottle every now and then. So, and just kind of look for what else they're doing, because it's going to be that same passion.
Exactly.
At a price.
If their name is on it, they're going to make even the basic offerings really good. And the Danny Meyer concept, I like.
No, I like it. You're from New York. It's a good concept.
Yeah. Who would be the equivalent in the Bay Area who also has? We'll think of someone.
I will. I'll noodle on that.
But anyway, Well, when I smell this, and here's another great nugget for your audience. Like, it smells.
Your audience too.
Oh yeah. Well, it smells Tuscan to me in that it has this savory, unlike, American wines tend to be very ripe and fruit forward. And this is quite ripe for a Tuscan wine in a lovely fruit forward way, but it also smells like herbs. It has this kind of savoriness that goes.
Olives. It's got like an olive.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to get that and I don't, but I actually get that from here. But yeah, the savory, the herbs, but like the fresh herbs, it's not like.
Right. Good herb.
dried, but you do get that cherry, you get the mix.
Yeah, and then like a beautiful. People underestimate Chianti Classico Reservas. They think Chianti is all like jug wine, but the best ones are fabulous, and they often have this kind of savory quality, and also I get here really good acidity.
Yeah,
so good with food. It's like a lemon squeeze for your food.
Right, but or a tomato squeeze, because I always, when people always ask about those food pairing things, and we haven't really talked about that. I know people always are looking for that, but for me, it's like, you kind of match region with region. So when you're looking at Italian wines, they always have this great acidity. So for the tomato sauces and that sort of thing, and then bigger ones, you can add the meat part to it. Yeah. So what would you, okay. Oh, I know you love potato chips with champagne. I'm just going to kind of rewind because I know we talked about that. I'm a popcorn and champagne.
Oh, so good.
Like, I know you probably are both of those. And that goes with Chardonnay too, right?
I was reaching for the Montelena.
When I said popcorn.
No better combination.
Truffle popcorn if you can.
Oh my God.
That was actually Mark Oldman gave me truffle salt for my wedding. And yeah, you did. But it was worth it. Like it was, well, you gave us a bunch of things, but it was in like a little pack and it lasted for a long time. But we would like even my oldest daughter, because she was born shortly after, we would put truffle salt like in her eggs when we were giving her food. I mean, it was just really funny. Anyway, truffle salt. Great.
And can I just say, some people are probably saying, "Oh, that's that synthetic stuff." Went
down to
No. This is real truffle. It's not Alba truffle in there, but it's delicious. And
it lasts forever. Like you really only need a little. It lasts so long. I finally had to go out and get more like after our 8-year anniversary. So anyway, but yes, so popcorn, potato chips, but no, Chardonnay is a wonderfully food friendly wine. It goes with lots of fish, I think, and even chicken, and probably would even hold up to a steak if you wanted. So,
you're absolutely right. And that's how to drink like a billionaire. Have white wine,
have rules.
White with a steak, yes. Or this is medium to full.
The tannins are not like astringent or whatever. They're very velvety. So would you put this with a fish or a richer
swordfish,
salmon, trout? I guess
you will be the billionaire because you will be breaking the rules if you're in certain very conservative precincts. I don't mean that politically. I mean people who are afraid
to precincts. Rules.
Yeah, they'll say never with fish, but this has the acidity and it has the lightness, and it's not light. It's medium to full body to be perfect fish.
Yeah, absolutely. Or like especially like a fish like in a tomato-based sauce.
Perfect acidity.
Getting hungry, but yeah, this is a beautiful wine. I think it's not overthinking it. It's like, it's got this complexity to it, but it's not that top, the $600 where you really have to sit down and think about it. It makes you feel better about it.
It's just a feel-good red, and not all Italian reds are feel-good. I once, when I ran this wine club at Stanford, I had a Lucio Caputo, who was head of the Italian trade organization, come in to talk about Italian wines. And he was dressed all in black. This was on the beautiful Bay Area Stanford campus, all in black, 3-piece suit. And he said something very interesting. He said, with Italian red wines, more times than not, you have to have food with it. And this, you wouldn't need food with it. It's not too dry. It's not too puckery. This, you could have as a cocktail wine.
Yeah. Or just like with a charcuterie, a cheese and charcuterie platter. Like all of these things I think would be wonderful to just walk around at some sort of, nibbles party. Sort of
Nibble fest.
Nibble fest. Let's do that. All right. One day when we're allowed to have people over again. So next we're going to go to another of my favorite producers. I don't know if I've said that for every wine yet, but at least like 3 out of 4. But Guigal. So we're going to the Crozes Hermitage from Guigal, historic family in the Northern Rhone. There's their property. So we're in the Northern Rhone, which is the home of Syrah. But rather than going to Hermitage, which is the hill that reminds me of Manhattan, because you can't really branch out from that. Oh, this is, I guess, I don't even know what year this is, but this looks like the hills. I mean, they're just hills in Hermitage and Northern Rhone in general, where Syrah thrives. But Yeah, so this is the Crow's Hermitage, which are kind of the slopes that you get off the hill there. But this is Syrah, and tell me a little bit about why you chose this wine because I'm loving drinking it.
So great. Well, first of all, kudos to you. You are a wine expert, but people mispronounce Gigal. I used to too. And part of wine, the scariness of wine is the fear of mispronouncing. And so, you see the label, is it Gigal? Is it Gigal? And
Regal, I don't
I
know.
remember it by like the Indian, like butter, which is called ghee.
Oh,
So I
oh,
kind of
right, yeah.
cross cultures on that. But yeah, Gigal, a Crow Hermitage. I love it because when I'm in a bistro in any big city or at any wine knowledgeable restaurant, this is going to be one of the wine list saviors. Because again, instead of being an Hermitage, as you mentioned, it's a Crow Hermitage, which is from a less prestigious area, but with a great producer like Gigal. And Gigal makes this, and they also make, the toppity tippity top stuff.
The lalas, la
Exactly, the lalas, coat rotis. But so like when I'm with friends, the problem, what makes me really honest and knowledgeable and keeps my knowledge going. It's actually, this is good about, upside to social contact, is because
la.
they foist the wine list on me, even if I'm not in the mood to choose. My non-wine expert friends foist a wine list on me. I got to come through each and every time. I've got to earn my dinner every time. So if I'm in a bistro, the Crow Hermitage is one of the three wines I'm ordering, and the Gigal consistently delivers.
Yeah. This is it's a smoky chocolatey thing that I'm getting right now. And it's been in my glass for a while. So
Oh yeah, smoky. And by the way, one thing I like to do, and a would-be billionaire can do it, cover it with your hand so you can make the smell even greater, the nose.
Because it's controlling, it's like compressing all those molecules that are bouncing around.
Exactly. Trapping in the vapors, compressing the molecules. I get a lovely pepperiness to this too. And the Syrah grape, this is in California, they would call this Syrah, but again, it's a little less fruity and a little more savory. But you're right. It's got some of that
There's a little dark chocolate, very dark chocolate, kind of just a hint, but
like bitter, but it's not bitter, but like a little bit of that dark, rich chocolate to it and some pepper. And then again,
fruit,
medium to full bodied. It won't weigh you down like a milkshake. It's got some life to it. So it will cut through food.
Yeah. Also a very food oriented wine. So yeah, I love this one. This is great. Okay, I'm going to start, or not start, but I'm going to ask you some questions from our viewers.
Oh, cool.
That submitted them before they tuned in. So Allie from Las Vegas wanted to know, in the world of wine, who do you most admire and why? Like, who influenced you?
Oh, the greatest influence on me. Well, first of all, when I ran the Stanford Wine Circle, it was a little unfair because I invited in California's top winemakers, and almost all of them came. So Mr. Robert Mondavi, Jim Clendenin from Au Bon Climat, Donine Dyer, who was one of the first female winemakers in Napa. She was at Domaine Chandon. Everyone came down, A, to market to the next generation of wine drinkers, B, to go to the Stanford Mall, because I guess there was no shopping up in Napa and Sonoma and down in Santa Barbara. And then a few of the rascally winemakers like to go to the local pub with some of the co-eds afterwards and have beers. But I wasn't a part of that.
Of course not. Of course not.
No, I was, yeah. But the other person who really was great and somewhat inspired my How to Drink Like a Billionaire book was a collector. And he's from the Bay Area. He and his wife are very low key. If you met him, you'd never know. He grew up basically in modest circumstances in Texas, but became a venture capitalist before it was even fashionable, before that was even a phrase. he made a huge amount of money. But unlike, I'm here in New York in my bunker, here in my wine sanctuary, unlike the New York aspect where you throw your weight around, he would buy the most amazing wines, share them with everybody, including the waiters and the runners in the kitchen. And his attitude was, don't be a wine D word. Yeah, pompous, stooge. Stooge is a great word.
Yes.
There's a danger with wine that, especially some of the banker types here in New York, they learn a little bit and then they become, it's this Grey Poupon pomposity. They just start pontificating, buttery with a tinge of tomato leaves.
Yeah.
He never would. He wanted you to have your own opinion. And no matter what you said about the wine, he never belittled you, even though he knew the world's best wines backwards and forwards because he had been buying them for such a long time. I attribute it to his personality, but also the fact that he didn't come from much and he could empathize with kind of all levels of sophistication and wine knowledge. And that really had an effect on me.
Good for you. Yeah. I mean, I guess we're all on a learning curve in some sense. So
isn't that one of the great things about wine?
Right. I'm still on one. You're still on. We're all on the learning curve.
Always. Canary Islands, I'm a company. I mean, there's always another region to learn about.
Always. Okay. So Charles in Pennsylvania wanted to know, do you have like a tip on like what wines are worthy of aging? Like, how do you know when to age a wine? I know that's kind of a broad question. But.
Well, one baseline thing to remember is almost all wines don't improve with age. That's why we age wine. It isn't just to hold on to it, although I'm guilty of holding on to certain wines. I'm afraid to move my camera here. Those are three wine fridges right next to me, 3 of 6 on the premises here in the wine sanctuary. But most wine doesn't get more interesting, more complex with age. So don't worry too much about aging. But if you are going to age wine and make it more interesting and complex with age, it is usually 95% of the time a red wine. And usually it is above, let's say, $25, $30. And it has a track record for aging. So if you read one of the big wine magazines, or if you go to Wine.com and one of the reviewers talks about, ready now, but improve over the decades. And those red wines tend to have a good amount of tannic bitterness early on, and sometimes some of that really good acidity we were talking about. So that in combining for really good structure. But I've had wines that are very drinkable now or then, and then 20 years later, they get better. They take on these tertiary, it's less fruity and more like forest floor and earthiness and like certain floral smells that you can't get anywhere else. So that's one of the reasons why you would age wine. Now, I'll also just add, and I'm so happy to see it, I just got on Wine.com, I just got into Vouvray from the Chenin Blanc grape. I know Psalms love it. I know you're supposed to love it, but a lot of the Vouvrays were a little sweet and I just never cottoned to it. Well, I got some from Ouet, and that's how you pronounce it. I looked it up. It's H-E-T, and like it's the best wine in Vouvray. And when I was researching it, all roads led back to Wine.com, and you guys actually have Ouet Vouvray. I opened one of their Vouvrays, which is this white wine from the Loire Valley, and it was completely dry, sec, SEC. And that is one of the few white wines that actually gets better with age. So it goes from kind of steely and acidic and lemony to this kind of petrol or richer or kind of apricot-y thing. And that's really cool, but that's very rare. And so you kind of have to know that the Ouet Vouvrays, if you get the right one, will improve with age.
Yeah. No, yeah, aging. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's also, do some research before you get a wine to age, and for me also, it's like it's the finish too. Like you're talking about all this structural, but like, do they go on? Like you've got the tannin, you've got the acid, you've got the fruit. Does it keep going? Because that's usually a good indication that it's aged, but that means you have to open one before you decide to age it. So for those looking to get a bottle without having to opening it and then having to buy another bottle, just do some research, I think is a good way to do it. So
that goes to a great billionaire point, and that is like those who are really savvy, the metaphorical billionaires of wine, will buy a case of wine that could be ageable. They'll drink one early, one kind of early. They'll drink it through the years, and that in itself is its own.
The best. You just
yeah. It's an education. It's entertaining.
It is. But that is the billionaire budget too. So if you don't have that,
you're right.
Research. But so I think that. Okay, so the other question, there were a few questions that came in. This will be the last one, but it was kind of like people wanted to know, what's your favorite under 50? What's your favorite under 30? What are great bargain wines on Wine.com, of course. And then, what do you serve in your own home, for entertaining? So I guess I'm just kind of combine those maybe of like, let's say you're serving something kind of in your own home for entertaining. First, like, do you have any go-tos for sparkling white or red? And even other than just like your go-tos, is there a range of like, okay, your best sparkling bet is going to be between 20 and 30 or, something kind of along those lines? Big, broad.
All right. So for the next hour, I'm going to talk.
Oh, right. Yeah. Just give you.
Hard to answer that. But no.
I know exactly. Sorry, they were kind of all similar.
It's hard to answer crisply.
Yeah.
But let me say that, first of all, with price, certain grapes you have to pay more for the minimum excellence.
Okay.
I like how that came out. I'm glad you're going to put this on YouTube because I may have to plagiarize myself on that. For example, Vino Verde, you could spend $5 and get a good bottle of Vino Verde, which is a white wine, simple, crisp. It's a Sunday afternoon doing chores kind of wine. Simple, straightforward, but it's well made, like a Muscadet. That's very well made. However, you know this too, with Pinot Noir, because of the delicacy of the grape and its demand for the proper growing situation for the grapes, it's hard to find a really good one below $20. So I kind of go by the grape type. And that said, so my little group on Sundays, it's all guys. And these are pretty successful guys and they want to learn about wine. And some of them really do know about wine, but they're still a little bit afraid of bubbly. They're still a little bit afraid of champagne. And I tell them, my one advice to you is keep it around. And if you think you don't like it, or if you think it gives you headaches, keep trying. Because in the wine community, and really for me, and this goes for visiting Champagne, the region, and Carneros and Sonoma, which will do beautiful bubbly. But also just tasting it from around the world, bubbly, or Franciacorta from Italy, Trento Doc from Italy. So as a baseline, you got to drink more bubbly. Life is too short. People save it for birthdays and ball drops, and it really should be a daily occurrence. And with the Gruet, we're giving them a lot of love here, but with the Gruet or
Tasmania too. Do you have the Jants from Tasmania? Is one of my favorites.
Oh, Tassie. My wife is Australian. I tried to do a video, by the way, how to talk Australian. They call it Australia. And everyone in America thought it was funny. And I got such blowback from everyone in Australia. Like people would email me, you don't sound Australian. We don't talk like that. But anyway, Tasmania, like the devil, cooler climate because it's Southern Hemisphere and it's down below, the best. And I'm sure you guys have a few, right?
Yeah, we have Jants, which is my favorite. I love the rosé and they're brewed. They're great. Yeah.
Such undervalued because here's a nugget. It's not the boardwalk and Park Place of bubbly. It's not champagne.
And those were your other 2 points in your book. And we'll kind of, I'll let you finish off talking about that. Of just like those a few key things that you mentioned. I'm gonna let you phrase them better than me, of just like go for the underdog in region, but when you're coming into something like Napa and Sonoma, go for the older, like traditional properties. So give us like our three tips of buying wine, drinking wine to take from this from your book.
By the way, you've done your research.
I do research.
Very impressive. Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking, I guess it's the neglected, right? It's where people are afraid or too lazy or just don't have the knowledge yet to go. So the hard to pronounce, the Gruner Veltliner from Austria, or Gewürztraminer, or a Zweigelt, or they're just a certain wine, even Viognier, which is a beautiful grape, sometimes grown. Oh, so beautiful, like a botanic garden when
right? Yeah.
But it gets neglected because everyone, we all have performance anxiety.
It's intimidating. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay. But like Chardonnay, I'll pronounce at a steakhouse. Merlot, I'll pronounce. Zinfandel, I can pronounce. But Gewürztraminer, I'm afraid to let those syllables go through my mouth. But if you learn to, or if you abbreviate it, or if you just point to it, there's usually value there. Yeah. So that's one great thing. Another thing you talked about are like neglected regions, or regions that aren't famous for, like Napa Cabernet. I love.
You said like Tasmania, but
right, Tasmania for Champagne, Italy for Cabernet. Like,
Washington. We just did a tasting with Washington last week. I'm a huge Washington for their reds. I mean, their whites too. I mean, everything.
That's the best value, in my view, in red wine. The Merlot, the Syrah, the Cabernet Sauvignons. Why? Because
land is cheap.
Yeah. Well, they haven't been around as long. There's so many smaller growers too. So there's value there. Whereas I love Napa Cabs, but you're going to pay for that marquee region, just like Bordeaux, you'll pay for that marquee region. So the unpronounceable, and then the neglected regions. But then if you go to marquee regions, sometimes the older places, we're a society that unfairly values the young and the hot new thing, the new thing. And sometimes the great old wineries have access to the best vineyard land. Like, for example, Montelena, who's, obviously they won the 76 tasting, but some wine writers and wine experts only want to talk about that wine from Slovenia because it's new to them. But if you go back to some of the trust, BV, Sansuperi, Louis Martini, the worst name, I know it was the guy's name, Louis Martini. I would have called it LM though. It sounds tawdry, but I'm almost ashamed of how much I love their Cabernet from Napa, but it's not trendy at all. So if you go back to some of the great original players, you'll see that they've got the quality and the real estate to make really, really good wine at not exorbitant cost.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you, Mark, for being here. I mean, these were all, amazing wines. Some of them I love already. Some of them I'm learned about, like the La Volte. Your first book actually has a lot of pronunciation in it, which I also loved, which I think is great. So if you are trying to kind of learn how to pronounce these underrated regions, that's in there. And just thank you for bringing wine to people to help them feel more confident and comfortable and talking about wine. And it's always fun to talk to you and share stories. So we appreciate your time of being here and rescheduling. For those of you at home, thank you for joining us. If you didn't get to taste these wines, I'm sorry, you need to buy them. They're all available still at Wine.com. They're all delicious. And check out Mark's book. You have a website, you have a sanctuary.
Yeah, come to my website. I do my own virtual tastings, and we're rocking the myths of wine next week. But I must say, I love Wine.com, and I'm not just blowing smoke, because you guys have like great everyday wine, but then you also have the really, really good stuff.
So
And
we are not gatekeepers. We give everybody, for the.
exactly. And it arrives like Amazon. Like it has that kind of like, not always, but almost, I'd say 80-90% of the time, it's that like 2-day arrival thing. And I think we're living in this instant gratification world where we like that. So it's fun. Kudos to you.
We do like that. So thank you. So again, Mark Oldman, and wines are available on Wine.com. Many are. Please enjoy. Have a great, is it Tuesday? Have a great week.
You're allowed to not know the day after these beautiful wines.
I know, but everybody stay safe, stay well. Mark, always great to see you. Cheers.
Cheers. Santé.
Santé.
Okay.
It's both a science and a form of high art. It's made from the combination of grapes, sunlight, rain, soil, and time. It's raised up in the moments that matter. It's wine. And we are Wine.com. We have the largest wine selection in the world, online sommeliers with free advice, and now our powerful new app puts the entire world of wine in your hands. Wine.com. Seriously passionate about wine. Download our free app today.